There's a strange sensation that follows certain moments in life. You make a choice, simple or profound, and something shifts. Subtle, nearly imperceptible. Yet it feels as though reality itself just adjusted. Like a silent door opened behind the curtain of what we call normal. This video is not just about how decisions affect your life. It's about how they affect reality. All of it. We're not speaking metaphorically. The very laws that govern this universe, those silent frameworks most of us take for granted, are far more flexible, far more responsive than we've been led to believe. And at the heart of that flexibility is you. Making choices. Each decision becomes a point of divergence. Not just a fork in your life path, but potentially the start of an entirely different reality, complete with its own outcomes, emotions, and future trajectories. This is not fiction. It's grounded in a mix of quantum physics, emerging theories in consciousness, and an expanding understanding of how thought, intention, and perception sculpt the experience of being. Today, we're taking a sharp and focused look into this concept. That every single time you make a decision, whether it's turning left or right, saying yes or no, believing or doubting, the universe isn't passively observing. It's reacting. It changes. It adapts. It rearranges its structure to align with the choice you just made. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about cause and creation. We'll begin with how quantum mechanics has revealed a strange relationship between observation and existence. From there, we'll examine the idea that multiple versions of you, each making different choices, may already exist. We'll challenge traditional notions of time, confront the idea that your beliefs are literally shaping the cosmos, and finally explore how you can shift from an unconscious passenger to a conscious creator. This journey is meant to crack open something inside you, to make you pause before the next decision and realize that you're not just influencing your future, you might be shaping the structure of the entire universe with your intention. You'll never look at a choice the same way again. So stay with this moment by moment, because by the end of this video, you may begin to feel what's always been true. That reality isn't static. It's elastic, and your decisions are the hands that stretch it. Let's begin with the mechanics, the invisible forces that respond to your every move. To understand how the universe shifts with each choice, we need to start where classical physics gives way to something stranger, something far less predictable. At the quantum level, the universe behaves in ways that defy common sense. Particles appear to exist in multiple states at once, suspended in possibility until something forces them to choose a state. That something is often you, your observation, your measurement, your interaction. This is the essence of what's known as the observer effect. In experiments like the double-slit test, particles behave like waves when unobserved, implying multiple possibilities. Yet the moment they are measured, they act like particles, solid, definite, real. This isn't just a matter of physics trivia. It implies something astonishing. Reality does not decide what it is until consciousness interacts with it. Now take that in for a moment, because what we're seeing is that the universe doesn't finalize its structure until attention is applied. Your observation collapses the wave of probabilities into a specific outcome. But this goes further than watching particles. Decisions are acts of directed observation. When you choose, you're not only influencing which option plays out, you may be collapsing entire streams of potential reality. A choice becomes more than personal, it becomes universal. You might be choosing which version of the world you will experience. Let's push this further. The quantum field, which underpins everything in the universe, is a sea of endless possibilities. In this field, nothing is fixed. Instead, everything exists as probabilities, potential outcomes floating in a kind of energetic soup. Your mind is not separate from that field. It's immersed in it. More importantly, your attention, combined with your intention, appears to interact with the field in a meaningful way. When you make a choice, especially a conscious one, fully aware, emotionally charged, mentally committed, it's as though you're planting a flag into one particular strand of possibility. And from that moment forward, the universe begins unfolding in alignment with that selection. This is where we begin to understand choice as a creative act. It's not that your decision simply puts you on a new path, it builds the path beneath your feet. Each thought, each selection, each preference becomes a kind of cosmic instruction. Now let's talk about scale. You might wonder, does this only apply to major life decisions? What about the tiny ones? The answer is yes. Even the smallest decision, like pausing before speaking, choosing to smile, shifting a belief, has its own ripple. At the quantum level, where everything is interrelated, even minute changes can cause a chain reaction that reverberates through time and space. This is known in chaos theory as sensitive dependence on initial conditions, the so-called butterfly effect. But quantum physics shows us that the initial condition might be your mind itself. In other words, your internal shift, a decision formed in silence, undetected by others, may still be sending echoes into the structure of reality. That's not mystical thinking. That's the emerging edge of science. Some physicists have begun to speculate that consciousness is not just a byproduct of the brain, but a foundational feature of the universe, a fundamental layer that interweaves with the physical. And if that's true, then decision-making is not merely biological. It's existential. Every time you choose, you're interacting with the deeper architecture of the cosmos. You are part of a feedback loop, an intelligent interface with reality. The moment you change your focus, your trajectory, or your state of mind, that feedback loop activates. It reflects your shift. This is why some researchers and philosophers argue that the universe is participatory. It doesn't just exist independently of you. It's intertwined with you. You are not an observer in a fixed system. You are a participant in a responsive one. So let's bring it back to you. Think about the decisions you've made in the last 24 hours. Think about the crossroads, small or large, that you've passed without much thought. Now reconsider them through this lens. Each one of those moments wasn't just a fork in the road. It was a pulse that extended outward, a choice point in a living, responsive web of reality. The structure of your personal universe, your timeline, your relationships, your future, is being reconfigured constantly by your awareness and your intention. And here's the takeaway that changes everything. You don't need to understand the formulas or memorize the theories to affect the field. You already are. You've been doing it your entire life. The difference now is, and with that knowledge comes possibility. Because once you understand that your decisions echo into the quantum void, not just echo but construct, then each moment becomes sacred. Each choice becomes a moment of transformation. Coming up next, we expand that transformation into an even broader idea, one that suggests you are not alone in the aftermath of your decisions. There may be countless versions of you, each living out a different path, and all of it somehow still you. Let's go deeper. There's a growing theory in both science and metaphysics that suggests something astonishing. Every time you make a decision, reality doesn't just follow one path. It splits, not metaphorically, not as a mental exercise. In this view, each possibility becomes real, spawning a parallel version of events where the other choice was taken. The version of you that said yes continues forward. So does the version that said no. Both unfold, in parallel, across timelines that remain unseen to each other. This is the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory, and it proposes a radical redefinition of what it means to make a decision. It suggests that all possible outcomes of any given situation do occur, but in separate, non-interacting branches of the universe. The universe, then, is not a single story. It's a library of infinite narratives. And you are the protagonist in all of them. The idea emerged from attempts to explain the bizarre behavior of particles at the quantum level. When faced with a measurement that could yield multiple outcomes, traditional physics assumed the system collapsed into one. But what if it didn't collapse at all? What if, instead, every possible result happened, each in its own new strand of reality? The choice doesn't narrow reality. It expands it. This means you're not merely deciding which path to take. You are, in a very real sense, multiplying. Every decision becomes a split point, creating a new instance of you, experiencing the consequences of that other route. It's not just poetic, it's structural. Now pause for a moment, because if that's true, then the self you know, the one you experience right now, is just one thread among countless others. There are versions of you who made different choices. Ones who moved to a different city, stayed in that relationship, took that risk, or never did. There are versions who are more successful, less fulfilled, wildly adventurous, painfully cautious. All of them are still you, and each one exists in a version of the universe that is real, coherent, and unfolding in its own direction. These are not ghosts or fantasies. They are fully formed alternate outcomes of the exact same decision points that you've passed through. Now here's the question that takes this from fascinating to deeply personal. If every version of you exists, what determines which version of reality you are tuned into? Because while all versions may exist, you only experience one. You're watching this video from one particular frame of reference. So what's the mechanism that locks you into this particular version of yourself? The answer may lie in frequency, a concept found in both metaphysical teachings and certain emerging theories in consciousness studies. Think of each version of you as vibrating at a certain frequency, based on the emotional tone, beliefs, and identity you carry. When you change how you think, how you feel, and how you act, you shift that frequency, and by doing so, you may begin aligning with a different version of yourself. In other words, your state of being tunes you into the corresponding version of reality. It's not just about watching your thoughts. It's about recognizing that your inner world may serve as a dial, selecting which version of the multiverse you're aligned with. Here's another layer to this. Some believe that clues from these parallel versions can bleed through into your current life. That moments of déjà vu, strange dreams, or unexplained instincts may actually be echoes from other timelines. Others suggest that you can consciously move between these timelines, selecting and stabilizing the version of reality you want to live in. This practice, sometimes called reality shifting, involves aligning your beliefs, behaviors, and emotional states with the outcomes you desire. It reframes decision-making. You're not just choosing for this life. You're choosing which life becomes dominant. And the implications of that are huge. If you're shifting versions of yourself with each decision, then the goal is no longer to become someone new. The goal is to align with the version of yourself that already exists, who already lives the reality you want. Every time you choose confidence over doubt, faith over fear, commitment over hesitation, you begin to resonate with a different version of reality. You don't need to build it from scratch. You shift into it. This removes the burden of becoming and replaces it with the power of choosing. Because that better life, the one where you're thriving, connected, purposeful, isn't waiting years in the future. It's a version that's happening now, somewhere in the multiverse. The only question is, are your current thoughts and actions moving you closer to it, or further away? You can start seeing your decisions not as efforts to achieve a goal, but as signals to the universe. Signals that say, this is who I am. This is the reality I align with. That's a different kind of power. Turns every choice into a mirror, every intention into a map. The stakes get higher, but so does your influence. Because now you're not just altering your future. You're stepping into a new timeline, one where that future is already unfolding. Think of this like tuning a radio. All the stations are already broadcasting, but you only hear the one you're dialed into. Your focus, your energy, your beliefs, they're the dial. When you adjust them, you don't force a new broadcast. You simply tune into a station that was already there. This is what it means to shift reality by decision. And it brings with it a massive responsibility to become conscious of what you're tuning into. Because if infinite versions of you already exist, then the path you walk isn't based on effort alone. It's based on resonance. Now that you've glimpsed the multiplicity of you, it's time to challenge something even deeper. Time itself. Because the next step is understanding that these shifts don't necessarily unfold in order. In fact, the future might be shaping the present more than you realize. Let's take apart everything you've ever assumed about time and explore how your decisions might be echoing backward just as much as forward. Linear time is one of the most persistent illusions of the human experience. From childhood, you're taught that time moves like a line. Past behind you, future ahead, the present as a fleeting slice in between. You make decisions now and consequences arrive later. Simple, logical, sequential. But that's not how reality works beneath the surface. The deeper layers of physics, consciousness studies, and ancient metaphysical traditions all point to one striking truth. Time is not linear. It doesn't move in a straight line. It doesn't tick forward like a metronome. Time may not even be a fundamental element of reality. It's a coordinate, a perceptual framework, something your consciousness organizes in order to navigate existence. And the implications of that are staggering. In quantum theory, there's no fixed direction of time. Equations work the same whether time moves forward or backward. There's nothing in the mathematics that demands a forward arrow. It's the observer, once again, who imposes that direction. But if time can run both ways, then your decisions right now may not only be influencing what happens next. They may be reshaping the meaning of what came before. Let that settle in for a moment. Because if this is true, then the consequences of your decisions aren't just projected into the future. They may ripple across your past. Not by changing physical events, but by changing how those events are experienced, interpreted, and integrated across your timeline. This is sometimes called retrocausality, the idea that effects can precede their causes. It sounds impossible, yet it has serious traction in theoretical physics and quantum experiments. Some physicists argue that entangled particles appear to decide their state after the measurement is made, even when those measurements occur at different points in time. This suggests something profound. Your conscious choices may send instructions not just forward into reality, but backward into your narrative. Here's how this becomes practical. When you make a decision today to become someone new, to think differently, act differently, feel differently, you're not only altering the potential of your future, you're transforming the meaning of everything that's ever happened to you. You shift the lens through which your past is filtered. Trauma becomes fuel. Mistakes become training. Regret becomes a turning point. Nothing about the facts may change. But your identity, the you who is remembering, interpreting, and assigning value, has changed. And with that change, the past itself is restructured inside your awareness. You are not bound to the meaning that events once had, because the meaning is written by the version of you who is remembering them. And when you change, so does the author. Now take this concept and extend it even further. If there are infinite versions of you, each one playing out a different life story, then time may not just be nonlinear, it may be layered. Each decision moves you to a different layer of that timeline. And in each one, your history, your present, and your future align in different ways. It's not just the destination that changes. It's the sequence of how things unfold. This is why two people can go through similar events and emerge with radically different perceptions. It's not just personality or mindset. It may be a difference in timeline architecture, driven by the decisions each made at key moments. This view reframes destiny. Destiny isn't a fixed point in time. It's a frequency path that you access through aligned choices. When you shift your perspective, you begin to unlock a new narrative. A timeline where your strengths rise sooner, your breakthroughs come faster, and your inner guidance speaks louder. Let's now address a concept that bends everything even more dramatically. Some researchers propose that your future self is already reaching back, influencing the present version of you. They suggest that your most aligned, fulfilled, awakened self, who already exists in one of those many timelines, may be leaving breadcrumbs, intuitive nudges, sudden insights, strange coincidences. This isn't just poetic. It's an operational theory in consciousness studies, sometimes referred to as precognitive influence or future memory. In this framework, the flow of influence is bidirectional. You influence your future through choice. Your future influences your present through intuition. So the real question becomes, are you listening to those whispers, or are you silencing them with fear, logic, or external pressure? Once you begin to acknowledge that time is flexible, and that your choices rearrange your timeline, then every moment becomes an opportunity for recalibration. You stop being a victim of chronology. You become its architect. And this is where the power of decisive action truly shines. Because when you make a firm decision, one rooted in clarity, emotion, and intent, you generate momentum that flows both forward and backward across your timeline. You begin pulling together the version of your life where everything aligns with that decision. The people, the events, the opportunities, even your memories begin shifting to support it. This is not because external reality has changed. It's because you've shifted timelines. You've tuned into a version of yourself where everything supports that choice. This reframes how you approach change. It's not just about altering your habits. It's about adjusting your timeline alignment. And that alignment is determined by one thing: the clarity of your choices. Are you deciding from fear or faith? Are you choosing from survival or expansion? Are you reacting to the past or responding to a vision of the future that's already alive in your awareness? These questions define which version of time you align with. And the more conscious you become of this process, the faster time seems to respond to you. Because time isn't just something you move through. It's something that moves through you. And now, having cracked the illusion of time, we face an even more disorienting truth. Reality itself, what you call solid, physical, external, is not separate from you. It may actually be reflecting you. In real time, your beliefs, your emotional state, your expectations. So the next layer is this: if your mind is a lens through which time bends, then perhaps your perception is the mirror in which the entire universe arranges itself. Let's take this further and explore how your inner world shapes everything you see. Stand still for a moment and look around. Everything you see, the room, the sky, the people in your life, the patterns playing out in your experiences, they may all be reflecting something deeper than circumstance. They might be reflecting you. This isn't metaphor. This is one of the most powerful, yet least understood, truths about the structure of existence. Reality functions like a mirror, responding not to your wishes or your words, but to your most dominant beliefs. It reflects your internal state outward, not occasionally, not sometimes, continuously. There's a hidden architecture to the universe, and at its core is feedback. You think something, you feel something, you believe something. That belief forms a kind of filter, an energetic blueprint through which all incoming information, experiences, and opportunities are processed. Your subconscious beliefs aren't just sitting quietly in the background. They're shaping how you see, what you notice, and what reality delivers back to you. The question is not whether you are creating your reality. The question is what version of reality your beliefs are aligning you with. If you believe the world is hostile, chaotic, or unfair, you'll begin to perceive evidence of that everywhere. And because perception determines attention, you'll continually reinforce those beliefs through the feedback loop of experience. But if you believe that life is intelligent, abundant, and supportive, a different loop forms. One where reality begins echoing back alignment, ease, and growth. Not because reality has changed on its own, but because you've changed your position within it. This is where understanding the mechanics of belief becomes essential. Beliefs are not just ideas you think. They're instructions you send into the quantum field. And the universe responds to those instructions, not by judgment, but by resonance. It doesn't ask if your belief is helpful, fair, or accurate. It simply aligns with the frequency you're transmitting. That alignment becomes your experienced reality. So when you say, "Nothing ever works out for me," the universe doesn't argue. It reflects that framework back to you, creating scenarios, people, and outcomes that fulfill the instruction. Not because it's punishing you, but because it's mirroring your signal with stunning fidelity. The same happens when you adopt a new belief. Everything is working in my favor. At first, it might feel untrue, but the mirror adjusts only once your inner alignment begins to shift. That's why belief isn't about blind faith. It's about conscious tuning. Here's where the real shift happens. When you begin to realize that every decision you make is also a declaration of belief, the stakes become higher and more empowering. Choosing to take action when you're scared? That sends the belief, "I trust that I am supported." Choosing to forgive? That sends the belief, "I am no longer a prisoner of the past." Choosing to show up fully? That sends the belief, "My presence has value." And with each of those choices, the universe mirrors back the evidence. Not immediately, not always in the way you expect, but with precision, because your outer world is organized around your dominant internal narrative. and that narrative is rewritten one decision at a time. Now, let's go deeper. There's a threshold that many never cross. The moment when you stop waiting for reality to change before you feel different, and begin changing how you feel regardless of what reality currently looks like. This is the pivot point, the shift from reactive to responsive consciousness. When you maintain a chosen state of belief, joy, gratitude, empowerment, even when external circumstances seem unchanged, you are no longer living in the echo of your past self. You're broadcasting from a new frequency, and that broadcast pulls in the matching timeline. It's not wishful thinking. It's cause and effect. Reality is not static. It's dynamic. It responds to your internal constancy, not your emotional flinching. And when you become consistent in your beliefs, reality has no choice but to reconfigure itself around them. Let's address a common question. What about unwanted events? If reality mirrors beliefs, does that mean every negative experience is your fault? Not exactly. The mirror isn't a moral judge. It reflects patterns. Some of those patterns are inherited. Some are absorbed from collective consciousness. Many are unconscious. This is why awareness is so important. The moment you become conscious of a limiting belief, I'm not good enough, I always get overlooked, I can't change, you are given a window of power. You can interrupt the pattern. You can insert a new instruction. And it starts with choice. Choosing to investigate that belief. Choosing to replace it. Choosing to act in contradiction to it. Each of those choices sends a new signal into the mirror. And when repeated, it forms a new reflection. Not overnight, but steadily. Just like a gym trains the body, consistent alignment trains the field of reality. There's also a reason that visualization is so effective, when done correctly. When you vividly imagine a desired outcome, you're not just daydreaming. You're installing a belief structure. The more emotional energy you place into that image, the stronger the signal you send. And the mirror of the universe begins calibrating to reflect it. This is why many people find that when they truly commit to a new belief, especially one that contradicts their old identity, they begin to notice signs, synchronicities, and sudden shifts. The mirror is adjusting, not because they hoped for it, but because they shifted their broadcast. Let's be clear. This isn't about denying reality or avoiding pain. It's about becoming the active cause in the equation of your life. Because the truth is, you're always broadcasting something. And the more unconscious your signal, the more chaotic the reflection. But the more conscious your signal, the more deliberate the reality that forms around it. This leads to a startling conclusion. You don't need to fix the outer world to experience a better life. You need to adjust the inner frequency that the world is reflecting. That's where all true change begins. So now you've learned how your decisions collapse possibilities into outcomes, how each choice may generate a parallel version of you, how time itself adjusts based on intention, and how your beliefs are reflected right back through reality. There's just one question left to explore. If all this is true, then is it possible to move between timelines? Can you consciously shift from the life you're in now to one where your greatest potential is already alive? Not through force, not through waiting, but through intentional alignment and a shift in consciousness so powerful that reality has no choice but to follow. Let's explore the process of shifting realities on purpose. There's a truth that changes everything when it's fully understood. The version of reality where you already have what you desire already exists. You don't need to build it from scratch. You need to align with it. This is the core of reality shifting. It's not about escaping the present. It's about tuning your consciousness to a version of existence where your desired outcomes are already playing out. And this tuning isn't theoretical. It's mechanical. Just like a radio receives the frequency it's set to, your awareness receives the version of reality it's calibrated for. Change the calibration and the signal changes. That's what timeline shifting is. A recalibration of identity, emotion, and behavior so complete that your experience of life begins to reflect a different version of truth. Let's start with the basics. You're already shifting timelines all the time. Every decision, no matter how small, is a point of redirection. It changes what you're in alignment with, choose to complain or procrastinate, and you may shift into a slower, more stagnant version of your timeline. Choose to commit to a higher vision with clarity and action, and you shift into a reality where synchronicities speed up, doors open, and support appears. These shifts don't require a dramatic announcement. They require an internal pivot. One shift in mindset, one shift in emotional state, one shift in intention. That's all it takes to access a new stream of probability. And once that shift is sustained, reality begins reassembling itself to reflect your new alignment. Not because you forced it, but because you became compatible with it. Here's the formula that underlies every conscious shift. Identity plus emotion plus action equals alignment. Let's break that down. Identity is the root. Who are you choosing to be? Not who you were yesterday or who others expect you to be, but who you claim yourself to be now. Your identity is a declaration, and the universe listens. When you shift your identity to match the version of yourself who already lives the life you want, everything changes. Because that version of you thinks differently, feels differently, shows up differently. And when you step into that identity, even before the evidence appears, you begin broadcasting the frequency of that timeline. Emotion is the fuel. Every emotion carries a frequency. Gratitude, joy, courage. These are high-energy states that naturally pull you into timelines of greater flow, abundance, and connection. Fear, resentment, doubt. These lower your frequency and magnetize timelines where those emotions become more justified. Emotion is not optional. It's the energetic charge that either stabilizes your shift or pulls you back to old patterns. This is why pretending doesn't work. If you try to act from a new identity but carry the emotion of the old one, your shift will wobble. You must align thought and feeling. That's when the signal becomes clear. And finally, action. Aligned action is the physical anchor of the shift. It tells the universe, this is not a wish, this is real. When you take action that matches your new identity, actions that might feel unfamiliar, bold, even uncomfortable, you begin collapsing that timeline into visibility. It's no longer a possibility. It's a lived reality. So how do you actually initiate a conscious shift? Start with clarity. Define the version of reality you want to access. Not vaguely, but precisely. What does it feel like? What do you see, hear, know, and believe in that version? Get specific, because clarity generates alignment. Then shift into identity. Begin showing up as the person who already lives that life. Not eventually. Now, if that person is confident, speak confidently. If they're disciplined, structure your day. If they value self-care, prioritize it. These aren't just habits. They are access codes to a new reality. Your current circumstances are the echo of who you used to be. But the moment you align with a new version of yourself, reality begins to shift to match it. It has to. The mirror always follows the mover. You move first. Let's address resistance. Every timeline shift brings up friction. That's natural. Your old identity will try to pull you back. It will whisper stories of doubt, fear, and failure. Not because it's malicious, but because it's familiar. Shifting timelines is the ultimate act of self-liberation. And liberation requires courage. So when the doubt arises, remember, it's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're moving. Keep going. Hold the new identity long enough and the old one will dissolve. And when it does, the environment around you, the people, the opportunities, the patterns will begin to look unfamiliar. That's confirmation. You're no longer in the same stream of time. There's one more key to mastering this process. Stability. Anyone can shift briefly, but to live in a new reality, you must hold the frequency consistently. That means daily choices that reflect the new self. Thoughts that reinforce it. Emotions that validate it. Actions that prove it. When all three converge, your shift stabilizes, and the old timeline loses power. That's when you notice things like sudden breakthroughs, perfect timing, and meaningful coincidences. Not because you're lucky, but because you're now in the version of reality where those things are the norm. This practice isn't about escaping your current life. It's about realizing that your current life is not fixed. It's fluid, responsive, moldable, and it's waiting for you to choose a higher version of it, not with fantasy but with frequency. Every thought is a map. Every feeling is a fuel source. Every choice is a steering wheel. You don't need to figure out every step. You only need to match the frequency of the reality you want and hold it long enough for the structure to rebuild around it. That is the art of conscious timeline shifting. It's not magic. It's mechanics. And now that you've seen how to move through realities with precision and intention, it's time to look at the ultimate implication of it all. Because if the universe is responding to your choices, your frequency, your identity, then you're not just influencing reality. You are creating it. Let's talk now about what it truly means to become the conscious creator of your universe. There's a moment in the journey where everything shifts, not externally but internally. You stop searching for proof that reality is responsive and start living as if it is. That moment is when the concept becomes a knowing, a quiet certainty. The power you've been seeking, through knowledge, practice, and understanding, has been running through you from the beginning. Every thought, every choice, every emotional state, all of it shaping your path in real time. The universe has never been a neutral backdrop. It's a living, intelligent field, and you've been the signal it's been listening to all along. So now, with everything you've come to understand about quantum response, parallel versions of yourself, nonlinear time, reflective reality, and timeline shifting, the question becomes clear. What kind of creator do you choose to be? Because creation is no longer passive. It's not something that happens to you. It's happening through you at every level. The invitation is no longer to wait. It's to activate, to recognize that each moment is a creative command. And the degree of consciousness you bring to that moment determines the quality of the outcome. This isn't about controlling life. It's about aligning with the version of reality where life works with you. That shift begins when you stop treating your thoughts as private. Because they're not. They're energetic broadcasts, and the universe responds to them directly, consistently, precisely. When you think, "I'm not good enough," you're not just expressing self-doubt. You're instructing the field to deliver experiences that confirm it. When you affirm, "I am supported," you begin interacting with a version of the universe where that becomes increasingly visible. This is the moment when the creative process becomes conscious. Not mystical, not abstract, but grounded in your awareness and your responsibility. Now, let's define the mechanics of conscious creation. It begins with awareness, the ability to observe your own inner state. Your thoughts, your self-talk, your assumptions, your emotional baseline. Every moment you spend unconscious, on autopilot, in reaction, in habit, is a moment you give your creative power away. But the moment you bring attention to your state, you interrupt the loop. You reclaim authorship. Then comes intention. This is more than goal setting. It's clarity of frequency. What are you choosing to align with? What version of yourself are you committed to embodying, regardless of current evidence? That clarity turns your energy into a directive, cuts through chaos. Next is embodiment, the real turning point. This is where most people hesitate. They wait for results before they become the version of themselves they say they want to be. But conscious creators understand something deeper. Reality doesn't respond to desire. It responds to identity. You must be it first. Think like it. Walk like it. Speak from it. This doesn't mean ignoring what's real. It means defining what becomes more real with each choice. When you embody the energy of who you are becoming, before the world reflects it, you bend the universe toward it. Now let's speak plainly. This path will challenge you, because you will meet resistance not just from the world, but from the old self. The version of you who was built in fear, comparison, scarcity, doubt. That version will try to pull you back. Not because it's evil, but because it's familiar. So here's what you must remember. Resistance is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that you are stepping into the unknown. And that unknown is the birthplace of new timelines. Push through it not with force, but with presence. Respond with the identity you've chosen, not the one you've outgrown. And as you hold that line, something extraordinary happens. The mirror shifts. People respond differently. Opportunities appear. Coincidences line up. You don't control these outcomes, but you align with them. And alignment is more powerful than control. There's a myth that says you need to earn transformation, that change takes time, that success must be linear. But those are beliefs, and beliefs can be rewritten. Time is a flexible interface. Identity is elastic. Reality is fluid. So the question is not, how long will it take? The question is, how aligned am I willing to be right now? Because in the quantum field, the moment you shift, everything else begins to rearrange. And the greater your consistency, the faster the reconfiguration. Let's end with the most powerful truth of all. You are not a static being. You are a field of conscious potential. You contain multitudes, infinite selves, infinite timelines. Every decision you make is not just a fork in the road. It's a signal to the universe, a declaration of direction. And the universe doesn't wait. It listens. It moves. It responds. Every day, every moment, every thought, you are weaving the structure of reality through your own awareness. So choose boldly, speak clearly, feel deliberately, act with the full force of the identity you claim. Because that identity is not something you become. It's something you remember. And once remembered, everything else begins to align. You've just explored one of the most powerful understandings available to the human mind, that the universe changes every time you make a decision, not randomly, but with precision, intelligence, and feedback. So the next time you face a choice, feel its weight, feel its wonder, because in that moment you're not just picking a path. You're shifting the structure of existence itself. And there is no greater power than that. Not to control life, but to create it fully, consciously, and with intention. That is the power within you. Use it well.